Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for joining us today for a webinar on building a future-ready enterprise, simplifying data management for the digital era, presented by Dell Technologies. We have some very exciting sessions lined up for you today with technology leaders and industry experts, and I'm sure you'll find them extremely relevant in today's context. I am Anil Chopra, VP Research and Consulting at Cyber Media Research, and your host for today's session. Please note that for the duration of this webinar, all participants will be in listen-only mode. You can, however, keep sending us your questions through your chat window. We will take them up towards the end of this webinar. With that, let's begin. We've entered an era of digitally led data-driven economies, and enterprises need to choose the right technology to kind of gear up for this tectonic shift. While there are many ways to leverage IT for the new normal, three areas stand out: edge computing, AI, and data management. And that's why we've introduced this three-part webinar series. The first part was on edge computing, which was conducted on October 8th. Second was on AI, which we did on October 21st. Today, we'll focus on data management. Just to kind of, set the context a little bit, I'm just going to run you through a very, very short presentation. So basically, given the way data is increasing, we need to be able to identify ways to simplify its management and protection. And if I really look at things, if I look at some of the trends, then, data growth isn't just within the enterprise. Now it's being generated at multiple sources, be it the edge, the cloud. And nowadays we find, most enterprises going a step further and choosing multi-cloud. It is being generated in the data center. And lastly, it's coming from sources beyond organizational control, like social media. So there's no need to really, there's now a need to actually manage this zettabytes of data that's, available now at our fingertips. And, no wonder then that, according to various studies by leading global research firms, the enterprise data management market is growing at a CAGR of 13.8%, from this year till 2028. Basically, now organizations need to be able to segregate this data into various data sets in order to leverage it, whether to find better ways to reach customers, optimize supply chains, or automate processes, and so on. What's even more interesting to note is that 80% of this data will be unstructured by 2025. And this time, it's not just documents, text, email, and rich media. There's also data from social media, like I just mentioned, IoT, sensors, and even communication data from online chat, to kind of, just to name a few. And, these are some of the enabling technologies for this data: hybrid and multi-cloud, as we just mentioned, AI and ML, blockchain, augmented data analytics, and data fabric technology. Adoption of these technologies is also growing very, very rapidly, as can be seen from some of the market data that is shown here. Hybrid and multi-cloud is forecasted to grow at 18%. It is being implemented by a majority of enterprises, with public and private cloud storage being its two main components. AI and ML, of course, need no introduction. Its usage has picked up over the past 18 months, and the market is growing at 36%. Enormous volumes of data, along with staffing shortages, are some of the key factors that are leading to the adoption of AI and ML. The augmented data analytics market is expected to grow at 31%, and its growth is due to similar factors as AI and ML, basically growing volumes of data and shortage of data science talent. Lastly, there is the data fabric technology, which is expected to grow at 27%. So, now that IT environments are becoming really complex, data is lying in multiple sources, and what you need is an intelligent infrastructure to simplify its management and protect it from theft or misuse. And timely access to data is therefore crucial in order to make the right business decisions at the right time. And, lastly, you need a unified view of all this data in order to simplify its management. So basically, data presents a huge opportunity, for every organization. And provided we can activate it to extract business value, by gaining timely access to, in the right format and with full accuracy. It can enable enterprises to provide individualized experiences to customers, innovate smarter products, develop entirely new, data-driven models. How should we do that? What should be done really to extract value and secure it and all that? We will discuss that a little later. But first, we're going to have a short session on how to really create new value by innovating with data, for which it's my pleasure to introduce Srini Rao, who's a senior director at Dell Technologies, who's just going to share a quick presentation. So thanks, and over to you, Srini.
Hello and welcome all. I would like to share with you our point of view on how, in these uncertain times, you can innovate with data to create new value that will prepare your organization for what's next. To set expectations, I want to reintroduce you all to each of the tracks that will make up our sessions here at this event. My objective with this session is to share with you some of the practical actions your organization can take to create new value by innovating with your data. I'm going to give you a high-level overview and then point you to some of the other sessions in this track to get more detail on the specific products, solutions, and services that Dell Technologies offers to help you to get it done. Data is as old as the hills. In fact, you could say that whole reason IT exists today to unlock the value of the data. But while data has always been important, where data is going to be created, where data is going to be processed, and how you're going to act on this data is going to change. Our world is becoming hyper-connected, whether it is consumer devices like phones, watches, cars, connected fridges, or connected toasters, or it might be industrial devices like trucks, drones, manufacturing or agriculture equipments. They all have sensors which constantly monitors the health, status, and performance for something. In short, all these devices are generating lots of data. Whereas in the past, most of your data will likely to be created, stored, and processed in the centralized data center or cloud locations. Data will be hyper distributed across dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of edge locations. On top of that, business requirements are changing. Data needs to be analyzed and acted at a hyper speed to meet the rising consumer expectations. So as the data center's gravity rapidly turns towards the edge, organizations are asking IT to deliver more and more these real-time, quality of service, fraction of the second functions in decentralized locations. The question is, how do you get modern technology, people skills and processes? And you need to innovate the data and create new value at the speed your customers, partners, and employees are demanding. So at Dell Technologies, we believe that in this data era, your organization's competitive advantage is directly determined by how quickly you can turn raw data into meaningful insights that drive your business outcomes. Digital leaders will be those organizations who become adapt to using data to fuel the personalized and integrated digital experiences, smarter products and data-driven business models which will ready their organizations for what's next. Creating new value with innovating with data will improve the human lives more than any other technology, dramatically reshaping industries and reinventing the way we live and work. So, how do you get started? To get a new value by innovating with data, you will need to do three things. Prepare to meet data where it lives by modernizing your infrastructure to meet the needs of the decentralized data era. Optimize the flow of the data throughout your organization by modernizing your data pipelines. Create the personalized and integrated digital experience, smarter and connected products and data-driven business models that will delight your customers by modernizing the digital innovation process. So rather than speaking hypothetically about these three steps, I'm going to share with you a real-world story for each which illustrates how organizations are different from these that have been able to create new value from their data. Since very shortly the majority of all enterprise generated data will be created and processed at the edge, let's start here. The first customer story I'm going to share with you is that of Sky Telecom. Let's see what challenges they faced and how they created new value from their data.
platform for customers to check the health of their broadband service, something that would let them check the speed of the service to their home and help them solve problems with Wi-Fi in their home, particularly with all the devices that we use nowadays. Something that was scalable, intelligent, and would only take 5 clicks to fix.
Boomi is a brain guiding over 250,000 customers per week on a simple user interface. We use Boomi as an intelligent black box. We collect the data, apply the rules, and respond with a simple API.
We can make simple changes through configuration, and it's instantly scalable.
It's data-driven, it logs every fault, cause, and resolution, and we use this to drive innovation.
We're really pleased with the results so far since building this application. 69% of our customers now start their journey online. This has seen an improvement in satisfaction and a reduction in repeat faults, saving the company over £6 million.
We love Future Assurance. It's really simple to fix customer problems.
So as you saw, Sky integrated more than 100 data sources to create customer service experience, which drove a 10-point gain in the Net Promoter Score, while at the same time reducing the customer service cost by 40%. The challenge was that only way the Sky's 24 million customers to receive help was to reach out to the Sky's tech support team. The team had 21 different tools, runs checks and communication systems. So the calls were lengthy and recommendations were inconsistent, resulting in the frustration for the customers. So Sky wanted to transform their customer experience. Their vision was to empower their customers through an intuitive self-service application for troubleshooting, creating a unified view of the disparate systems and technologies running its networks. This required them to able to connect with all the underlying data sources, process them with the intelligent algorithms. So after surveying the marketplace, Sky Telecom selected Boomi, a Dell Technologies business, as their platform and brains powering its innovative feature assurance web application. So Boomi collects live data from 100 endpoints, which integrates with most of the business applications and the customer equipment as well. Then it applies the configurable business rules and logic and response through the simple API. Sky customers are presented with the recommendation on how to solve their issues. This innovative digital self-service application improved customer service and agent satisfaction and won 2019 UK National Technology Award for the Best Enterprise Project. So how did Sky achieve such great results, and how can you do the same? Preparing to meet date where it lives means you will need to modernize the infrastructure that needs the decentralized data era, and you can do that by connecting the people, things and systems in your digital ecosystem. Building your edge by bringing applications and infrastructure closer to your data so you can unlock real-time use cases. And at the same time, it is important to avoid edge sprawl by maintaining the consistent operating model across private, public clouds and the edge locations. Check out the other sessions in this track to understand how Dell Technologies can help you with the solutions like Boomi for data integration, or industry-leading edge solutions and Apex Cloud services. Okay, so we talked about how to modernize your infrastructure to meet the needs of decentralized data era. Let's now turn our focus from infrastructure to the data itself. Today, many organizations take too long to convert data to information, to knowledge, to wisdom, which highlights the importance of optimizing the flow of data throughout your organization by modernizing your data pipelines to remove the latency and get right data to the right people in your organization at the right time. Again, rather than talking theoretically about how we can optimize the data flow, I'm going to share you a story on how this is actually being done in practice. Let's hear from Tijan.
Tijan's making an impact in the world of precision medicine through applying technologies and techniques to help bring better treatments to patients. We've got The ability to take discoveries in the lab and then translate those into treatments for patients at a rate that I think exceeds most places. Some of the largest challenges we've faced on this journey have revolved around data movement, data management, and data processing.
In genomics, processing speed is really important to us because the data sets are so large. It's really hard to actually conceptualize how much data that is. If you typed out the human genome letter by letter and printed it off on standard size paper, it's almost 300 feet tall, about the size of the Statue of Liberty. And that presents a real analytical challenge.
Our data analytics strategy today is around building intelligent systems that will be friendly for bringing in things like machine learning and artificial intelligence to actually do baseline interrogation of the data so that then humans can come in and do the finer analytics.
The quicker we can get to the bottom of that data using the Dell Technologies high-performance computing approach that we have here at TGen, the better it is for the families, the better it is for the researchers.
Dell Technologies has really enabled TGen to go into this journey of digital transformation. They really understand that the point of technology is to have impact, and going through digital transformation is absolutely an essential piece of that. Having a partnership with Dell Technologies has been a cornerstone to a lot of the work that we've done and has really enabled TGen to stay ahead of the pack and to be a leader in precision medicine.
As you saw, TGen slashed the time it takes to map the 200 billion data points in the patient's genome from 2 weeks down to just 8 hours. This dramatic improvement allows TGen scientists and physicians to accelerate data analysis and offer personalized treatment in more timely manner, offering new hope to patients and other families. So how did TGen achieve such a great results, and how can you achieve similar outcomes? To optimize the flow of data throughout your organization, you will need to modernize data pipelines to get right data to right people at the right time. To do that, you will have to master the life cycle of your data from cradle to grave. Take your organization decision make beyond human scale using the artificial intelligence, and transforming security from being an inhibitor of innovation to an accelerator. Check out some of the other sessions on this track to learn more about how Dell Technologies can help you with each of these areas. Look out for modern data management, ready solutions to help you accelerate AI adoption and our intrinsic security strategy. So I've talked about the need to prepare to meet data where it lives by modernizing your infrastructure, and the need to optimize the flow of data throughout your organization by modernizing your data pipeline. So in this final section, I'm going to talk about how to use the insights generated from all your data to create personalized integrated experience, smarter and connected products, and data-driven business models that your customer talk about. Just like before, rather than talking in theoretical terms, I'm going to share with you a real-life customer story.
O banco, o Bradesco, ele é conhecido como o banco do brasileiro. É aquele banco que abraça todos os públicos e todas as gerações. Nós começamos a olhar esse movimento de transformação de bancos digitais, muito difundido principalmente na Europa e na Ásia. E olhando para o mercado doméstico, olhando para o mercado do Brasil, onde você tem 58 milhões de jovens entre 18 e 35 anos, que são early adopters, que gostam de tecnologia, que fazem do uso do celular no seu cotidiano, nós observamos uma oportunidade de um banco com 76 anos de história na indústria financeira poder prover um banco digital. A partir desses insumos que começa a ser pensado, desenhado, idealizado e desenvolvido o Next. Para que você pudesse construir um banco digital em 18 meses, uma das premissas importantes era que você tivesse parceiros que pudessem, de fato, te ajudar a acelerar todo esse movimento. A Dell Technologies, ela exerceu um papel preponderante em todo o ciclo do Next. Mais do que simplesmente prover a solução, teve todo um trabalho imersivo, todo um trabalho de diagnóstico, de entendimento de quais eram os objetivos para que fosse pensada a melhor arquitetura, a arquitetura ideal, para que fosse pensada as melhores soluções e a partir daí a gente poder iniciar todo o ciclo de desenho, construção e implementação. O Next, ele foi todo pensado para ser uma plataforma 100% digital. Todo o processo de adesão ele já ocorre 100% digital. Ele não foi pensado a partir do conceito de produto, ele foi pensado a partir do conceito de jornada. As pessoas têm jornadas na sua vida, né? Você tem objetivos, você tem desejos, você planeja muita coisa que você vai fazer. Então, tudo isso se traduz através de jornadas. É muito comum você ver as pessoas quererem investir, quererem guardar dinheiro, mas também, por outro lado, não ter uma disciplina financeira que permita isso. Então, através de um conjunto de soluções, de algoritmos, de inteligência, de identificar o momento de vida de cada cliente, o Next ele traz esse papel de ajudar a te orientar financeiramente para que você possa de fato conquistar os seus objetivos. A gente tem na nossa missão muito definida essa coisa de o cliente estar no centro da relação como um todo e a gente ajudar ele a fazer acontecer as suas conquistas, a fazer acontecer os seus sonhos, a fazer acontecer os seus objetivos. Então, nós queremos, mais do que ser um banco digital, ser um banco que é amigo do cliente verdadeiramente.
Okay, as you've seen it in the video, the rise of digital native banks was a big concern for this Branco Bank, which has potentially ended up in losing existing customer base to the digital native banks and inability to attract 50 million plus new million customers in the Brazilian market. The goal was to create digital bank for millennials using a data-based approach to understand the customer behavior. So Branco Bank could provide a personalized integrated customer experience which makes this sound financial recommendations that fit each customer's unique goals and circumstances. So differentiated through user experience and by leveraging digital intelligence based on big data and advanced analytics. So Branco Bank collaborated with Dell Technologies to innovate with data to create Next, a digital banking application that uses algorithms and artificial intelligence to provide customer with proactive recommendations and help them to reach the beneficial goals. So benefits: completed the development of the digital banking applications in less than 18 months. Otherwise, it could have taken more than 5 years for them to develop that. And they are able to retain 300,000 plus active customers. And at the same time, they attracted more and more user base in their banking environment. And also released 40 plus application releases to really cope up with the new generation functionalities which banks were looking for. So how did bank achieve such great results? And how can you achieve similar outcomes? To drive digital business outcomes from data insights, you will have to use those insights to create the personalized and integrated experience, smarter and connected products, and data-driven business models that your customer carve about. You will need to modernize your innovation process by transforming how you design and build the digital products, delivering better software to production continuously, acquiring the digital innovation skills your organization needs to be successful in this data era. So, you heard about 3 different organizations from different verticals and different parts of the world, Sky, TGen, and Branco Bank. We've now seen how they have created new value by innovating with their data. But now, how can you get started? Okay. First and foremost approach is explore. In a short session today, I've only been able to mention some of the ways in which Dell Technologies can help you create new value for your organizations by innovating with data. Ask for a follow-up sessions to explore how Boomi can help you to discover, prepare, integrate your data. Explore how Dell EMC's file, block, and object storage options can meet all your data storage needs, and how PowerEdge servers and precision data science workstations are optimized for your most demanding data-intensive workloads. And moreover, how can you protect your most valuable asset, data, with our industry-leading data protection capabilities. Explore how we can accelerate adoption of your AI with our ready solutions, and or how our Tango platform can help you to create modern software which acts on the digital experiences, more personal, your products, and smarter solutions as well. And you need to plan, if you're not sure where to start in our journey to become a data-driven business, our consulting services will help you assess your current state of data innovation maturity, define the target future state, and map out your unique journey to evolve IT from where you are now and where you want to be there in the value with your data. And if you are shortage of your skills, our Dell Technology Education offers professional certification to help you build in-house competencies in data science, data engineering, and platform engineering as well. And finally, accelerate, or perhaps you are wondering what an actual living, breathing culture of data innovation looks like in the real world. Get up close and personal to your experience with creating a new value from data really looks like by engaging with some of our own Dell digital data scientists and engineers to learn how they overcome the data challenges and the lessons learned from those digital transformation. I hope today's sessions has changed your perception about what's possible when you partner with Dell Technologies. As you have seen, we can support you every step of the way in converting data into insights into the actions that will drive your business outcomes. Thank you for attending this session. I hope you found it valuable. We welcome the opportunity to partner with you to help your organization to create new value by innovating with data. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Srini, for such an interesting session on how to really create value by innovating with data, and for those real live international customer case studies from Sky, TGN, and Banco Bank around how they've done it. It is now time for a panel discussion on activating data to extract business value, and how should we really do that? What should be done to ensure security and adding value and all that? We're going to discuss much more of that today. And for this, I'm very pleased to share, invite our panelists on screen. I'm pleased to welcome Vilas Pujari, CIO for ACG Worldwide. We have with us Dr. Suresh Shanmugam, who is the Head Digital Innovation and Future Technology Business Information and Technology Solutions at Mahindra & Mahindra Financial Services Limited. Welcome, Suresh. And we have Narahari BL, Head IT Digital Transformation at Titan Company Limited. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here. Vilas, can you please switch on your video? We're missing seeing you. Okay, so while Vilas, we'll wait for him to switch on the video. One question for Mr. Narahari. There used to be a standard rule that most data is no longer used after the first time, other than for backup and archival for compliance purposes. Does that rule still hold true? Or do we now have use cases where certain types of data can be reused to realize greater value?
I think every data in the industry is very important and it has to be reused. If you cannot reuse, then the purpose of storing itself gets questioned. So I don't think any data which is unused remains in the organization in the current era. So every minute data also has to be used. And it has to be seen from the consumer angle, how we can generate more value to the consumers. And of course, if that is the approach that you have in the company, I think we will be able to leverage every bit of data.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mr. Narahari. Suresh, earlier we had servers and applications that would generate a lot of structured data that would be backed up and using standard procedures. Today, there is so much of unstructured data which is growing by leaps and bounds. What are some of the new IT infrastructure requirements now to store and manage this data?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for this the opportunity with you all today. It's a great networking, and it's a nice presentation earlier we had in terms of how things work from the Dell Technologies. Coming back to your question, we have to see prior to COVID and post-COVID, like how the same digital transformation is moving and the kind of expectation set part of the business. Prior to that, it was more to do with corporate digital, where we were satisfying more the stakeholders and the internal users, where we are trying to focus even the information, trying to capture part of the interface and trying to capture it. But post-COVID, surely the kind of expectation set part of the humanity were moved from corporate digital towards the customer digital, where every individual customer is treated as corporate now. So earlier it was 550 fields, which captured a lot more in terms of data, which pertains to the customer and the banking information. Now it is moved expandedly towards the potential in terms of the purpose of the business and other elements, which is participating part of the customer. In our case, which we thought of just doing an information capturing part of the customer, now it is moved in terms of engaging with the customer for a long term. So we termed it just moving from public cloud, private cloud, now something called community cloud, where we are able to utilize that information in terms of engaging with the customers. Try to create an earning potential for the customers, an earn to pay model, make the customer to earn so that he can pay for us. If you are trying to stimulate similar models, the data capturing and the data intimation has gone into multifold and trying to utilize as much as part of the smart enterprise, like how we try to enable similar things part of the life, which we started with a normal essential infrastructure and now moved as much as in terms of the volumes which handles all the time, and trying to create as much as on the digital transformation as multifold in terms of virtualization, even operating systems and the application migration, part of keeping mobility and IoT using the security model in terms of cloud integration has created enormous reach in terms of how we can use social media and web presence, making us even during tougher times to utilize and have the control mechanism using the management tools within compromising on the green IT efficiencies also. So similarity, if you see in terms of a smart enterprise, good olden days, it's having an infra trying to connect with the customers, trying to enable the business. Now it is going to get more in terms of engaging with the customers and trying to create as much as potential in terms of information, which enables him to get into multifold. For example, if you are trying to give loans for a person who is taking cows for a loan, where earlier it was more to do with the health of the cows and other things. Now, whether we can engage with them for the milk products and other information, part of the customer, which empowers him to get into multifold information. Even for example, if you are taking a kirana shop, you are trying to get as much as information to empower the customer, will get as much as more even the customer relevant to that area, and trying to get engaged with them using our other information, which gives the connectivity part of the customer. So the data model is not just to build a feature, it's like creating an empowerment of making all the individual user as enterprise, which creates as much as information, which makes them to be more digital and use as much as transformation to convert both the business so that he can pay for us for a long term. Back to you, Mr. Chopra.
Thank you, Suresh. I think some great, insights you've given, truly connecting data with the business models, being able to incentivize customers to be able to get data from them, and then you according to the business model, you decide where to really store it, and the IT infrastructure depends on that. So I think really great example from you. Vilas, thank you for joining us. The enterprise data management market is growing at a rapid pace, right? I mean, there is so much of data that is being generated. What are the major driving factors for this, growth of data management in your industry? Can you give us some insights around that?
Okay, I think because apologies because I'm outside, so you may have a little disturbance in my video. But basically, what is the when we talk of data, we are now talking of leveraging data in a manner, how much I can leverage, what I can do with the data and all. But let's go back a little and understand how the data actually gets created. The data gets created only by using applications. So when we design applications to meet or automate a particular business process, or a particular user requirement is being met. At that time, the data strategists need to get involved, especially the CIOs, who can visualize the possible potential use of this data in future. And that is when the real value of data will start coming to the organization. So during the application development or application deployment stage, how much value do we give to data? We only give to the importance to the some of the reports that the users ask for. But one should visualize the future potential use of the data for certain applications and for certain activities which were not thought of during that point in time. And also, we had created data 15, 20 years back. And today, those tools are available for using the data which were not available in those days. So as we now talk about, how do we design applications, how do we use data and all, we did not know even that something like AI will come into place, 20 years later. And during the creation of the data, I should visualize all these things. It is little preposterous, but we should try to do that. Only then we'll be able to leverage data. So the proper design of the database, the proper selection of the applications which captures that data is very, very important to begin with. And then only we can talk about further exploitation of data.
Basically, getting it ready, having the right technologies in place to be able to, create value, have the CIO involved to be able to identify what should be the future. Are the starting points, and then we kind of, move forward on that.
Yeah.
So thanks, Vilas. Narahari, the various studies suggest that data scientists spend 80% of their time cleaning data rather than creating insights. What are some other challenges in extracting value from data? I think we heard some points from Vilas and Suresh. Would love to hear your views.
That is typically the process what each of the data scientists would spend some time. But what actually happens is, if there is no thought process, like what Mr. Vilas told earlier itself, and work out that strategy on how to utilize the data well, I think people end up spending more time in collecting the data, cleaning the data, and preparing the data rather than generating the value out of the data. So the magic formula that every organization should look at is the data itself should be not good enough. So the data, we should be able to utilize that data into an information into insights. And every insights should be able to convert into business actions. Each of those business actions will again generate more data. If that cycle gets completed without any hurdles, I think then we would have achieved something great. And this is an ongoing journey. There is nothing that we can claim that we are fully compliant and 100% achieved and there is no more action to be taken or no more data to be collected. So this happens all the time, and we should be prepared enough to look at from this lens so that we are able to generate more business value.
Yeah, you have to look at the entire cycle and then kind of make sure that's only, when the whole thing gets complete, if you can extract business value from it, then it obviously makes sense. So yes, absolutely. Suresh, you rightly gave some really good examples of basically what happens is that data has become the new oil for the global economy. But what are some of the technologies and trends that are driving this data management today? Vilas mentioned AI, but you want to talk about some other technologies and trends?
Yeah, again, it's a combination of so many things. You can take even the data center, like how we try to make part of it, or how the enterprises try to create. So you can see, as especially when it comes to financial institutions or specific to the governments, when we deal with especially the trust factor. Means in India, very well, e-business is less to do with electronics, more to do with emotions. How data can be translated and transformed and trying to bring it out. So the kind of academic research fulfilling the knowledge gaps and trying to create as much as insights into the critical development issues, building capabilities using the data center, and trying to create even an architect which builds as much as into the kind of impact which sets part of three different omni channels, which we can say. One is more of an OPDC, which is an on-premise data center, which is for our rural, especially the connectivity, wherever we have less than 64 kbps, they would connect to use, and the kind of information which is transformed internally for the kind of expectation set part of the internal businesses. The second one is what more to do with enterprise cloud, and it's more to do with ECS, where share and care model, dealers, brokers, agents, they would want to extract your information, but still the security and other trust factors are mentioned and trying to carry out for a long term, and it is highly available to have the competitive market outside. Again, that's a different set of information. Again, it's purely based on that expectation set part of the regulators, and trying to ensure like how the finance can reach to the competition and ensure the services across the country. The third one is what high density data center, where that's where the real artificial intelligence and other information flows out, and trying to extract more information to do analytics, trying to get a district level information, go close to the customers, trying to create as much as information which is more informative to both internal and external customers, where they can jointly execute the kind of business and the collection options which enables them to be close and get engaged with the customers. So if you're trying to see similar three factors, all are from data. Again, all as a different entity level authorities, even entity level, you can see like the security patterns, how a particular back office person or a front office person or a media share and care person who is trying to utilize the data, they can try to extract it, try to manipulate, but within the norms set by the regulators and the security concerns, which is monitored part of it. So when it comes to, even if you see a near far DR setup, keeping on high availability and the kind of information required, we can have something to do with the financial year data, which is available, which is part of the production and the near and far DR, so that the overall, if you say you have more than 2 petabyte of data, not necessarily get exposed to the live environment all the time. So the COVID has taught enough in terms of how to utilize and create an architect so that have only the financial year data, which could be in GB, or if it's in MB, which is available part of their live system. Otherwise, all the data which is kept in 3 different omni channels, which is for like on-premise data center for the internal team, and the other one is for the enterprise architect in terms of people can use it from the outside cloud model. The third one is more to do with the data which is trying to utilize and trying to create as much as on the artificial intelligence and other factors part of it. So when you try to see in terms of how we can see, we can have even clear cut to find out how the data can be authentic and made more simple so that it is highly available for the different people or different entities. During cloud or during this COVID, we found enough information which is fully secured and which is made highly available even to a third party who are trying to do an assistance in terms of brokers, agents, dealers, or could even access the information part of it. So the enterprise architect is moved as much as towards the engaging model and a share and care, where the data is more available for the relevant and right person within the authentic information with the secure process, which is defined internally.
Yeah, great. I think, very valid point you said there, Suresh, that, having the right data to the right person at the right time, making it available. And I think the pandemic has kind of taught us how to make sure that, there's an architecture that makes sure that this happens. Correct. So thanks for sharing that. But yeah, one point is, Vilas, and this question is over to you, that, data, as we've all been discussing, has become ubiquitous. It's everywhere, and it's being generated at the edge, cloud, and in the data center. What are now some new data governance rules to maximize, the potential from using this data?
Yeah, I know this is very, very valid point that you brought about. The data is now getting generated everywhere. There is no fixed location or fixed place or fixed user who is generating data. Now, earlier we used to have the generation of such data, such I can call it as, it's some data getting generated somewhere in Excel sheets and such emails and all. Now, those were some structured, unstructured. But today there is so much of structured data getting generated because of these edge points and many such applications which are getting generated by the concerned users, and the applications in the area of automation, digitization, digital transformation, in the name of various such things. So much of data is getting generated. It is very difficult for the CIOs to keep track of. We have examples of our users coming back and telling us that, sir, we want one server. Why do you want this server? We are, developing some application. There are even people who are developing the application because the newer generation of the, of the digital teams who have access to the rapid application development tools, they learn on that, they generate their own data, and without realizing that this data which is being generated is the property of the organization, and there is a huge strategic value for that. So what we have done to overcome that is that any application development will have to be involving IT. So there are no, even if it is a business specific application, point applications, everywhere IT is compulsorily involved. So digital is everywhere, but at the same time, IT doesn't mean digital, digital doesn't mean IT. So there is there is a overlap. So what we have done is that even those digital initiatives where IT is not involved today, IT must be involved. It is just a mandate which is from the management, and whatever servers, whatever data gets generated through a proper backup policy, through a proper backup data governance policy, we have created a data governance team consisting of strategic officer, the top management leadership teams, and the IT teams, and the production and sales teams, which are part of the overall data governance, who will ensure that any data that is getting generated is given assigned a proper value on a point system. Once, if that point, based on that point system, if that is carrying certain value, there has to be certain adherence to the data governance policies like backup, where the data is saved, who owns the data, defining the ownership, archival, backing up of, and everything of data is defined. So right from that selection of application to the end of implementation and everything, the involvement IT and having a proper governance, data governance steering committee and a task force is must for every organization as we go along, because it is not just the backup of data. It is the how do I leverage that data for multiple purposes as against only the purpose for which it is generated.
No, absolutely. Thanks. I think a very valid point. It's important to kind of tag the data and make sure that, its value is there and understand its value so that it can be, and that is one point. The other is to be able to reuse the data that is being created from one place to be from one source to be for other applications. So good point on that. Narahari ji, as data volumes grow and are being generated, in multiple places, what are some of the security imperatives to ensure that it remains safe from malware and theft?
This data actually needs to be protected. Any company needs to give that information security as one of the major thrust and important strategic, and it should be designed right at the design stage. It will be taken care at the design stage itself. So there are several layers that needs to be taken care. First and foremost is the environment in which we work. So there should be enough firewall and malware detection, antivirus, and so on and so forth. And the data should not get directly exposed on the cloud or on the public network. We should be hardening the operating system, the databases, the application should be ensured that there are no loopholes in that from the security point of view. And of course, it should have the high availability like what Mr. Suresh also was telling. So once the data is on high availability, the data is actually protected. And from there, we try ensuring generate more business value, and the data accessibility also needs to be given a lot of trust. That means the access control, what we do, what we generate, is it the insight which gets exposed within the company for people to take right actions, or if the data itself is shared across all the people for them to do their own insights and then take action out of that. Then there is a possibility of manipulating the data, wrongly interpreting the data, the quality aspects is not considered. So these are some of the things that needs to be taken care of at an enterprise level. And these are supposed to be done at the design level. So when these are done at the design level, I think the expense of exposing would be very, very minimal. And then ensuring that the right access is there. And this needs to be ensured that it is not a monthly or a weekly activity. It should be a real time. If the organization, if a person leaves the organization, the moment his ID is deactivated, all his access rights would get disabled. So it is not a month end or a daily or a weekly activity kind of thing. It has to be a real time. So when we take care of all these things put together, I think your data and the business will be in the safe hands.
No, thanks. I think very, very valid points you have raised. Keep it in the architecture from the beginning itself to be able to, protect it and have the right policies, so that especially when a person leaves, you should have the policies enough so that, the data is not like misused or the person takes it along with him and gets misused. So very valid point. Last question I have, I think Vilas is probably facing some connection issues and dropped off. But anyways, I will ask this last question, which is a common one to both of you. And Suresh, maybe you can start. In terms of telling us some of the best practices that you would recommend to enterprises for maximizing value from data. What would be some best practices that you would recommend?
So it's again a great question. Like, no, generally it doesn't start like data. You should see it like that's one of your investment, like no, one of your money or one of your future. Like, no, how we try to do it as a even research internally, we found at a sector level what all the things which we try to do within the corporate, trying to utilize not only just from the financial services in automobile, trying to use it in housing, insurance, and trying to leverage as much as part of the other sectors, which is even try to govern through the governments and regulators, trying to utilize as much as the current latest technologies, whatever it is coming, part of the social payments and the kind of collection refuges, trying to use as much as in terms of it could be micro, it could be small, or even internally we try to do the medium enterprise products, which try to create as much as in terms of digital and involve the kind of fintech, which creates as much as trying to go closer to the customers in terms of health, in terms of insurance and climate, in terms of agricultural and farming and tourism, and trying to utilize as much as part of the expertise. That's what the real products creating as much as part of the omni channels, which earlier good olden days we try to design as per the policy or strategy, trying to create as much as internal and external organizational transformation. But now it's a must in terms of how we can do the kind of design thinking in terms of innovation or disruption, which enables the market and communication using the data sites and creating an catalytic kind of facts, which creates as much as finance through the training. That's where internally we are trying to do it. In terms of example, if you want to see, like today we can even opt for a customer and trying to create him as he can work for you as a Gram Pradhan in terms of doing collection and the kind of business through him, and trying to enable part of his views in terms of business and the corporate views also. So that's where it is trying to create and trying to use as much as part of the multilateral kind of information, which is both into the kind of partnering or in terms of using the financial service, both dealers, brokers, agents, and the people who are all involved part of it. So the data is not just only the kind of enablement, it creates enough in terms of knowing ourselves also to establish in terms of what kind of businesses we can even still stimulate and go through, because it's a rural market is very untapped and it is very open market, and people now realize beyond finance it can be done in multifold in terms of if you're digitally transformed, and the customer strongly believes you can enable him in terms of businesses which can be taken to the multi levels in terms of increasing, like no, without doing much of the other investments or much of other expansions, try to utilize the data part of it. So the expectation set part of the current community cloud of creating a slogan earn to pay model has created a huge impact in terms of the customers which they try to utilize, and it has even empowered us to even think about multi-float in terms of storage, which gives more multilingual, where we can coordinate with them and trying to create as much as closer to it engage with the customers. So if you want to put it in one line, which we can say like post-COVID, surely it's going to be like not only 1,600 locations or 2,000 locations, it could be like 8 million customers. Can I have an 8 million outlets? Like, no, that's the way it is looking forward and trying to create the customers to work for us in terms of how to do the collections or how to do the kind of business during tougher times, or even enabling such a kind of information available through your digitally transformed model. That's where we were hoping and trying to take it up. And board were very clearly created the norms, as people expect a lot more in terms of the areas which were not so challenged earlier. Earlier we had something called electricity issues, connectivity issues, and the resource availability issues. All three now as a mindset and the digital transformation has put very closer to the customers and seeing a different phenomenon of getting engaged with them for a long term and ensuring them like in their all businesses to create, to make them to earn so that they can pay for us timely. Back to you, Mr. Chopra.
Thank you. Narahari ji, what are your views around best practices for maximizing value from data?
I'll give you 3 simple steps to understand what can be the business value. So if the data, it is not from the data that you try and discover what is the business value I make out of it. From the business point of view, if there is a better value for consumer or your customer, I think that is where we'll have to look at what data can help us. That is one. The second is, if there is a better experience that we can give to the consumer, we have to look at from the experience point of view. One is value for money. The second is experience. The third is the additional revenue. In case we can create an additional stream of revenue, these are the three things that we will have to look at and prioritize and utilize the data that is already going to be there in some form or the other, and leverage that to best use of these so that the businesses and the consumer, it becomes a win-win proposition for both.
Great. I think Vilas is still facing connectivity issues and probably is not able to join back. So, but thanks a lot for sharing those views. I think it's been a very insightful discussion around data management. I'm sure the attendees also found it useful. So if there are any questions from the attendees, I think we can do a Q&A now. So please post your questions on chat and we will just answer them before we conclude today's webinar. So there is this one question that is there around, data that is being generated from all the sensors, in a production environment. So how do you really make use of that and make sure that it is, you can really make sense of that? How would you really, go about doing that? Narari, you have some thoughts around that?
So these sensors, when they generate data, you can actually utilize it for ensuring that the machine doesn't go bad. So you can actually use that for preventive maintenance, ensure that the logs are read in real time and the health of the machines are used. The life of the sensor or the equipment is actually being studied. And then we could take proactive steps to ensure that there is no downtime on the equipment, thereby losing the manufacturing capabilities or loss to the consumers. So that is something that can be proactively done using the sensors data.
Okay. Suresh, you mentioned something about, different languages and all data coming in because you're reaching out to rural market and possibly there might be people who don't really understand English, but they're still obviously giving a lot of data that is useful. How do you make sure that you're able to extract the value, from data from different languages, vernacular and all?
It's again a great question. I'll put it instead of rural India, we can put it even for the Indian perspective. There are two types of data. One is cooked data, another one is authentic data. Authentic data has a supporting information, which is a continuing information, has variables which has more value system. Where cooked data is nothing but like what you arrive like for example Facebook, you have more cooked data because maximum positives are seen, no negatives are seen. Where if you take to Twitter you can have both, like you can have even a negative comment coming in and people are trying to post even on that. So data which is more authentic and has both positives and negatives is a valid data, which more than 90% we can have value towards the valuables, which enables us industry like finance, BFSI go internally to try to execute with them, let it be multilingual or any vernacular language. But if it is more cooked data, it's a hardly 50%. And again, you have to have a thumb rule method where to have multiple cooked information trying to do with that. So slowly people are moving from cooked data, where even to fill up form, good olden days, only the executive fills up because he knows English and people say whatever they want to say. Otherwise, he puts everything yes. Meaning, are you an existing customer? Yes. Are you doing this? That's how it is seen. Now, slowly those things are getting changing. People, even the end user would want to speak on their own language. They want to use IVR for that. Even the motivational messages they would want in their own IVR. They don't want to read as a message. For example, transporters believe in astrological message. So we do send some astrological message to say, being on Kanya star, you will get your money back. Could be more positive for him, but he wants in the local language, in an IVR, which tries to communicate to him in the way he wants. And if it happens, then that's where the trust is built and trying to go closer with the customers. So it's more of like authentic data, which enables us to go closer with them, try to believe and trying to get that we have some 6 Bs, which says like belief, behavior, try to convert best business benefits. Like we try to connect with them, which gives us values. And again, Narari has told very clearly to say like until customer doesn't feel any value to that, or customer doesn't have that getting closer in future with even the emotional information is not going to be easy. So create as much as authentic data rather than the cooked data. and trying to have that values which goes very clear cut with the customer valuables, then that matters a lot. And preferable authentic data has more value comparative to the cooked data. Back to you, Mr. Chok.
Thank you so much. Narahari, this you talked about the architecture from a security point of view, but there's another very crucial aspect here. Data is being generated from so many different sources. Particularly, for example, the edge. It is being generated at the edge at various points, in so many different places. It is being generated in the cloud. It is being generated, from customers and all that. Would a typical traditional data center kind of a model be good enough to kind of capture this data and being able to analyze it? Or do you think that there's a need for a change in architecture on CMR's website, so you can watch it again in case you've missed it. So we will now call it a day today. But before before that, I request you all to share your feedback on the link posted in your chat windows. So signing off for now. Thanks to you all for attending. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you again soon. Goodbye.